Good morning and warm welcome to this special broadcast from State House as we await the launch of the second Harambee Prosperity Plan, of course following on from the first Prosperity Plan. Joining me here now is Dr. Alfreda Ngari, Press Secretary, as well as Mr. James Mnyupe, the Presidential Economic Advisor. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Dr. Ngari, let me start with you. In terms of just running us down as to what is going to happen next now, as we are about 2 minutes away from the launch.
Yes, what is about to happen now is the culmination of a lot of work on the part of President Gengo. We closed the first Harambee Prosperity Plan last year, June, and we provided a report to the Namibian people that demonstrated 74% execution. But our ambition is to do more and better. HPP2 draws on the lessons and best practices of the first Harambee Prosperity Plan, and we are looking forward to launching a plan that speaks to the ambitions of the President and, more importantly, the needs of the Namibian people.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mnyupe, if we bring you in, a lot of work already went into drafting the second plan, but as we said, the real work starts now.
Absolutely, and we just witnessed obviously a very trying budget that was delivered by the Minister of Finance yesterday. Of course, we're going to be experiencing some of the largest deficits we've ever seen really over the past 30 years. And so on the back of that, there was a lot of collaboration, actually in fact across all of government, which is really the spirit of doing business that we want to really encourage, an all of government approach to crafting together a targeted and bespoke response to easily the most challenging economic calamity we've ever faced as a country. And so yes, we've put together a set of programs that are steeped in deep ambition for prosperity for all and for to eradicate poverty. But again, it has to be grounded in extremely well thought through research, and we'll be talking about that in a little while, exactly how we would also be looking to improve on the execution of this ambitious plan.
Very well, sir. Let me stay with you. In terms of the plan, it encompasses also an economic recovery plan. Why the focus on that?
Obviously when you're in a very deep hole, you have to plan on how you're going to come out of it. So that's one. The other is obviously because we're so fiscally constrained, we have to be atypically creative in the manner in which we're going to get out of the situation that we're in. Of course, at the moment as well, we're enjoying multi-generationally low levels of interest rates around the world. And so that does give Namibia a very unique opportunity to tap into cheap capital to reconstruct a much more vibrant and a much more dynamic economy going forward. So of course we have to be opportunistic and make the most of that particular occurrence to really look after the
local authorities, because these are very important sites for service delivery.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for this very brief engagement. We'll continue the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. Cheers.
And that's it. We are awaiting the launch in the next 30 minutes or next 30 seconds or so. We'll see the launch of the second Harambee Prosperity Plan. Thank you for joining us here.
Is it okay? Good morning, good morning. Are we all fine? Yes, yes. Just quick house rules before we welcome the President. Let's keep our phones on silent or on vibration mode, so that it does not interfere with and cause disturbances. Shall we rise for the arrival of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Namibia and his entourage? His Excellency the President. Let's please remain standing for the singing of the Namibian and the national and the AU anthems.
Namibia, land of the brave freedom fight, we have won. Glory to their bravery, whose blood waters our freedom. We give our love and loyalty, together in unity, contrasting beautiful Namibia, Namibia, our country, beloved land of savannas, hold high the banner of liberty. Namibia, our country, Namibia, motherland, we love thee. Let us all unite and celebrate together the victories won for our liberation. Let us dedicate ourselves to rise together to defend our liberty and unity. All sons and daughters of Africa, flesh of the sun and flesh of the star, let us make Africa the tree of life.
Please be seated. Your Excellency, Dr. Hage G. Kenkop, President of the Republic of Namibia, Your Excellency, Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, Vice President of the Republic of Namibia, Right Honorable Sarah Ukongelo Amadila, Prime Minister, Honorable Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Honorable Shimi, Minister of Finance, Honorable Ministers, distinguished invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christine Huebes, Minister in the Presidency, and I will be your Director of Ceremony for this morning. Let me first of all welcome you all to this important event. I also welcome those who follow us on live stream and the governors who are glued and tuned in to witness the launch of the flagship second Harambee Prosperity Plan, HPP-II. The HPP-II is a targeted accelerated plan formulated to fast-track socioeconomic development and to bring us closer to the goal of shared prosperity. The first Harambee Prosperity Plan was launched in April 2016 which ended in March 2020. Despite many challenges, the review of Harambee Prosperity Plan I, as per the report of June 2020, shows that significant progress has been made through the implementation of activities under the 5 pillars. The plan we are launching today, the Harambee Prosperity Plan II, is building on the successes of the first Harambee Prosperity Plan. Like Harambee Prosperity Plan I, this is a 4-year plan which ran from 2020, 2022 to 2024, 2025. With this said, Your Excellency, allow me to quickly run through the program, primarily for those viewers that are viewing from outside. The event proceedings are as follows. Welcoming remarks will be made by the Right Honourable Prime Minister. The introduction of the keynote speaker will be done by His Excellency, the Vice President. The keynote address and the official launch of HPP2 will be conducted by His Excellency, Dr. Hage Geingob, President of the Republic of Namibia, after which presentations will be offered of the Harambee Prosperity Plan by presidential advisors, followed by questions and an answer session. The vote of thanks will be conducted by Honorable Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, after which we will close off with the singing of the AU and the national anthems. It is my honor, Comrade President, to invite the Right Honourable Prime Minister to come and deliver her welcoming remarks. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Director of Proceedings and Minister in the Presidency. Your Excellency, Dr. Hage Geingob, President of the Republic of Namibia. Your Excellency, Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, Vice President of the Republic of Namibia. Honorable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for International Relations and Cooperation, Dr. Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah. All Cabinet Ministers, Comrade Secretary General of SWAPO Party, members of Parliament, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished invited guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. It is my great honor and privilege to welcome you to this event marking the launch of Harambee Prosperity Plan II, covering the years 2021 to 2025. At the onset, I would like to applaud His Excellency the President for his foresightedness, which gave rise to the birth of the Harambee Prosperity Plans in Namibia. The government launched the first Harambee Prosperity Plan in 2016, as we have heard, as a 4-year targeted plan complementing the NDPs and the long-term plan Vision 2030 in order to spur accelerated development and economic growth in the country. Harambee Prosperity Plan II builds on the foundation laid by Harambee Prosperity I. The launching of Harambee Prosperity II comes as we are approaching the new financial year and will, as a result, give orientation to the operational plans for the next 4 years, not only for public institutions, but hopefully also for institutions outside of the public sector. In the spirit of unity of purpose which underlies the plan, we should all, as stakeholders in development in our country, across the entire spectrum of our society, rally together and cooperate to give effect to the goals and targets set out in Harambee Prosperity Plan II. This is necessary now more than ever as our country faces those challenges brought about by COVID-19 and other emergencies that have been visited upon us over the past years. Overcoming these multiple challenges will require focus, agility, innovation, and resilience. Business as usual is simply not an option. The launch of Harambee Prosperity Plan II is thus timely. Therefore, I do not want to take up any more time, but will conclude with a call upon all of us to fully acquaint ourselves with the plan once it's launched and contribute our part to its full implementation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Prime Minister. I have omitted to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, Professor Pitaka Chavivi, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Professor Loide Kasingo, as well as the Secretary General of the Sobo Party, Comrade Sophia Nahango Shaningwa. My apologies. I would like to call upon His Excellency, the Vice President, to come and introduce our keynote speaker. Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, our Directors of Ceremony and Minister in the Presidency, Honorable Chris Huebes. Your Excellency, Dr. Hage Gottfried Geinkop, President of the Republic of Namibia, Honorable Dr. Sarah Kubongerwa Madira, Prime Minister of the Republic, Honorable Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwa, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Honorable Dr. Peter Kachavivi, Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Secretary General of the SWAPO Party, Comrade Sophia Nahango Shaningwa, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Members of Parliament, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, all invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my distinct honor to be the one assigned to introduce the keynote speaker, a person who is one of our rare national assets. I will attempt to condense his many attributes and the many roles he played in shaping, directing, and establishing, among others, one of our national development plans, the Harambee Prosperity Plan. This is the month of March. The television is indicating that it's the month of Namibia's independence. And I am forced to think about March 1990. By this time, those who were members of Parliament will remember, or the members of the Constituent Assembly will remember, the Constitution has just been approved. And we're now marching towards independence. And there was so many things, what to do with the public service, who is going to be in which ministry, who is going to be a secretary in which ministry. So, and then came always saying, go and ask the director. The director who directed us during the election, the first elections, the director who ended up being the chairperson of the Constituent Assembly, the director who ended up being the chairperson of the drafting committee of the Constitution, and the director who ended up making sure that the Constitution is adopted. That is the same person I am introducing this morning. Before I dive into his many national leadership roles, allow me to recall an inspirational leader's legacy, an honorable and patriotic statesman, a long-serving member of the SWAPO leadership, a great administrator, and a seasoned diplomat. He has been a representative of his movement, a director of educational institution. The rest I already mentioned, directors of election, prime minister at one time. Prime minister almost became his name, no longer his title. That is the person I'm introducing this morning. Following his ascent as the president and commander-in-chief of the Namibian Defense Force, he engineered the Harambee Prosperity Plan, his brainchild, launched in 2015 when he took office as president. As a leader, he molds and cements the vision of our country, that of a united, inclusive, and prosperous Namibian House. This vision of prosperous Namibian House is firmly rooted in the 2014 SWAPO Party Manifesto and has since been translated into HPP and NDP 5. The Harambee Prosperity Plan has thus been implemented in phases. We recall and successfully presented the progress report of HPPII in 2017. We are here to present the dawn of a new era, the HPP2. As the speakers before me have alluded to, the HPP2 will focus on strong economic recovery programs by creating the much-needed jobs for the workers, for the youth, for the women, and for all our citizens in critical sectors, which include the green-blue economies. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Gaigob is a strong advocate of enhanced transparency and accountability in the public service and a firm believer in working hard to deliver better services to our people through collaborations and cooperations. Hence, his mantra that no one should feel left out. He has thus taught, trained, tutored, mentored, and groomed many Namibians who have grown to be respected leaders in their own rights. He works extremely hard, a man with a clear mind, brilliant ideas, and strong principles, a believer in time management and in one Namibia, one nation. It is therefore my singular honor to request you all to help me welcome His Excellency Dr. Hage Gottfried Geingob, President of the Republic of Namibia, to the podium. Your Excellency, sir.
You may be seated, please. distance now. Enough for Liverpool. We have just lost one of the sons, a Pan-Africanist, who is from the country in which we all, some of us were too young, but those who are liberation fighters have been gathered. There's been a home to all of us. That's Tanzania. We just got the sad news that we lost the president of that country. Our condolences go to the people of that great country. In that honor, I would like to ask you all to rise for a minute of silence. Attention. Thank you. Director of Proceedings, Comrade Nangolo Bumba, Vice President of the Republic of Namibia, the Right Honorable Prime Minister of the Republic, Comrade Sarah Kuangela Amadila, Honorable Netumbo Nandi Daitwa, Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Sophia Sanyingwa, the Secretary General of Swabo Party, Comrade Speaker of the National Assembly, Deputy Speaker, members of the Diplomatic Corps who are here because of limited space, we couldn't invite everybody, regional governors who are all following online, members of the media, fellow Namibians. As we enter the second year of the fourth decade of our independence, on 21st March 2021, which coincides with the implementation of the Harambee Prosperity Plan II, which starts from 2021 to 2025. It is self-evident that the journey of Namibia is one of hope, resilience, and progress. During the past 31 years, we have taken the necessary actions to transform our economy through the establishment of a robust, effective governance architecture. These decisive actions have paid dividends. As a result, many positive signs have emerged to enable Namibians to look into the future with renewed hope and determination towards a new frontier of prosperity. Today, we are launching the second Harambee Prosperity Plan. Under the current difficult conditions imposed by COVID-19, the launch is a clear demonstration of our resilience and faith in the continuity of the Namibian journey of peace, democracy, prosperity, and our intent to redress the negative impacts of the virus. The plan retains the 5 core pillars of effective governance, economic advancement, social progression, infrastructure development, and international relations and cooperation. I believe strongly that history is the best teacher, and every resilient nation must learn from its past, its lived experience, which includes victories and setbacks, in order to face the future with renewed hope and confidence. It is why, based on lessons learned from the implementation of the first Harambee Prosperity Plan, enabling infrastructure projects, A, construct a new desalination plant in Erongo region to enable the expansion of the economic activities in the mining sector. B, expand our local generation capacity by 250 megawatts in order to power the recovery. C, optimize the operation of the Walvis Bay container terminal and establish economic free zone. This is a period of great opportunity, and we thus invite investors to partner with the government in the construct and delivery of these transformative initiatives encapsulated in the plan, which have the potential to transform our country for generations to come. Our objective is to unlock targeted projects worth approximately 27 billion Namibian dollars. Social progression requires sustained investment. However, a society that does not care for the vulnerable or invest in social progression will leave many behind. In light of our history of systemic exclusion, we will continue to make the necessary investments in improving our health and education systems while strengthening our social protection mechanisms. Infrastructure development is a catalyst for industrialization and economic growth. Therefore, in an environment where resources are scarce, sustainable public-private partnerships are essential to fully leverage and deliver key infrastructure projects to spur economic growth and to realize the goal of positioning Namibia as a logistic hub with attractive world-class facilities. Our international relations and cooperation is anchored on Namibia as a product of international solidarity midwifed by United Nations. As a consequence, we will continue to be guided by the values of justice and solidarity, whilst reaffirming our commitment to multilateralism as the best guarantor of a healthier and safer planet. In the Harambee Prosperity Plan, we will strengthen inter-ministerial cooperation to enable our global diplomatic footprint of missions and embassies to play a pivotal role in economic diplomacy, to attract investment and grow our exports as a means to grow the economy in order to create employment, thereby from length and breadth of our country during the 2019 town hall meetings. Through these participatory town hall meetings, which lasted on an average of 6 hours per meeting, cabinet ministers and myself listened to the inputs of citizens and also, on the spot, provide feedback where necessary. The plan also benefited immensely from enriching consultations held between July 2020 and March 2021, where political parties, civil society, the business community, and academia. This inclusive process makes the Harambee Prosperity Plan II a truly Namibian document, which should be owned by each and every citizen. I recognize the urgency with which we have to deliver tangible improvements in the lives of our citizens. To realize this shared aspiration, I call on the commitment of all Namibians to work towards an inclusive, tolerant, resilient, and prosperous society. A society where citizens are loyal to their country, and the government is loyal and dedicated to serving their needs. As Namibians, let us hold hands to deliver on the commitments of Harambee Prosperity Plan II with utmost allegiance and enthusiasm. Now is a time to hold hands and build an economy that is inclusive and where growth is shared. Together, we should continue with the work of building a society in which all Namibians pull together to fight against poverty, corruption, inequality, gender-based violence, and other social ills. This call is consistent with our motto of no Namibian should feel left out. Now that we are going to be led by experts, I now invite, therefore, our advisors, who are working hard on this, to now give you the full details of each pillar of this plan. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. This marks the launching of the Harambee Prosperity Plan II. Let us give another round of applause to the President of the Republic of Namibia. This is his flagship program. This was his dream. This is his vision that we have seen over the past 4 years materializing and manifesting into reality. Now, as the President has said, the 5 presidential advisors are going to break down to us what the Harambee Prosperity Plan actually means. Because if we have listened carefully, the economic recovery plan for Namibia is embedded into the Harambee Prosperity Plan II. The advisors, each one an expert in their own field, are going to break down how we are going to achieve, through the Harambee Prosperity Plan, the economic recovery that the President has envisioned. And therefore, I am going to call upon Advocate Inge Zamwane Kamwe to present an overview of the first pillar of the Harambee Prosperity Plan, which is the effective governance. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies, and thank you, Your Excellency, for the opportunity. I'll be presenting on the effective governance pillar, which is the first pillar of the Harambee Prosperity Plan. Just by way of introduction to say, this pillar seeks, amongst many things, to strengthen public institutions' capacity to deliver services in an accountable, transparent, responsive, equitable, and inclusive manner. This pillar has got 5 goals and 23 activities. The goals, the first one, very important as a foundation of the House, is accountability and transparency. The second goal is to strengthen the national anti-corruption mechanism. Goal 3 is improving performance of the public sector and service delivery. Goal number 4, very important part of inclusivity, is to enhance citizen participation and engagement. This goal was not there as a standalone goal in the first Harambee Prosperity Plan, But given the input and feedback from the consultations, this was added as a separate standalone goal. The fifth goal, obviously, as a government, one of the key mandate of the government is the maintenance of order and the rule of law. So this is a goal that was also added to enhance security and the rule of law. Just briefly to take you through the key activities for some of those goals. I don't know what's happening here. So in terms of transparency and accountability, there are 6 strategic activities. I will only mention a few. The first one seeks to entrench a culture of structured and integrated reporting across all offices, ministries, and agencies of government, including also the public enterprises. This is an important aspect of accountability and transparency. The citizens need to know what each office or ministry and agency is busy with, and we can do that by providing regular reports as feedback to the citizens. Activity number 2 under this accountability is obviously to ensure that we have in place key policies and legislation. Amongst them, there are quite a number of bills that have to be passed during the Harambee Prosperity Plan. I see that you have received the plan, so you can go through that, but I would like to highlight most important bills. The Access to Information Bill is a critical component of our transparency drive. So we want to deliver on that. It has long been outstanding. We also want to deliver the revised Namibia Investment Promotion Act. We hope, Minister of Trade, that before the end of the year, we will see the light of this very important bill. The Namibia Empowerment Economic Framework has been in consultation for a very long time. It is about time that the bill is now turned into law, and therefore it is one of the key bills that we want to deliver. Minister of Justice and the Right Honorable Prime Minister, we look to you to help us deliver on this long outstanding commitment. The second and third bills have to do with the ICT world in terms of cybercrime and data protection. We also want to continue to perform well on the Ibrahim Index on African Governance. There are specific dimensions that are outlined in the Namibian scorecard. We are currently ranked number 6, and we want to improve our ranking to be among the top 5. In terms of goal number 2, which is strengthening the national anti-corruption mechanism, we know that the first national anti-corruption strategy came to an end last year. We are aware that stakeholders undertook evaluation of that strategy, and we now are going to be develop the second National Anti-Corruption Strategy and Action Plan for 2021 to 2025. We also want to strengthen the existing whistleblower and whistle protection legal mechanism that are in place, and to progressively operationalize the 2017 acts that were passed and were not operationalized. But we are aware of the challenges, and therefore, since we already have existing mechanism, we are going to work with the sectors to ensure that we strengthen the existing legal mechanism, and then progressively, as our situation improves, we operationalize those two other existing bills. For a long time, since the operationalization of the Public Procurement Act, there has been a lot of challenges. So we want to ensure that we simplify the procedures, we develop guidelines and criteria for emergency procurement, as well as eligibility for exemption. In terms of Goal 3, which is improve performance and service delivery, there are quite a number of activities under this goal, but the highlights of this is, firstly, we want to improve the focus of the performance agreements to enhance the efficacy of the performance management system. This means really looking at the goals and targets that are likely to have high impact on the livelihood of our people and therefore increase service delivery. So the performance agreements of the ministers and the senior government officials, when they are set with the beginning of the financial year, some of the activities that are included in the plan will also be included in your performance agreements, and we hope that the focus will really be on impact and service delivery. We also want to assess the status of decentralization so that we determine critical functions that are amenable for decentralization, develop and implement a decentralization plan, and we look to the Minister of Urban and Rural Development to deliver on that plan. The third key activity under this goal is to accelerate the rollout of key governance services at national and regional levels, including a functional e-procurement, e-learning, e-health, and e-commerce. One of the lessons from COVID-19 is clearly that we need to improve on our e-services and online services. So we need to work hard within the limit of our financial resources to make sure that we improve the coverage. This is an aspect that was introduced during the HPP1. We had 10 pilot sites which were successfully rolled out, and with the coordination and oversight of the Office of the Prime Minister, we look forward to further operationalization of e-governance services across all government institutions, including at the regional and sub-regional level. Your Excellency, I think these are the highlights in the interest of time that I would touch on. I will now invite my colleagues, James, to take you through the economic advancement pillar. Thank you.
Your Excellency, I'll stand on the protocol that has been observed, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for taking the time to come and join us on this journey which has been extended to you by His Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, the Minister of Finance tabled a budget speech yesterday that essentially presented Namibia with its largest deficit in its history. Just under $16 billion is what we will have to borrow in order just to fund the operational and developmental ambitions of our country for the next financial year. It is in this extremely challenging environment that we tried to encapsulate His Excellency's passion and vision for this country, and of course the commitment of arguably one of the best cabinets that he's put together in the history of this country. And so, of course, when we present this particular vision, the question really from us all is, can we do this? And what I can say is that yesterday's budget speech infused a lot of fiscal prudency into the narrative. But there was also a call to arms to all of us when the Minister of Finance challenged us to try and build a nation that resembles that of Wakanda. This particular pillar tries to be focused in its approach, and so there are really just 3 goals that we're going to be trying to achieve, and 16 activities in total. The first goal, as you can see up on the screen, is a commitment to become better stewards of the natural resources and public assets at our disposal, as His Excellency mentioned in his speech. Essentially, under this particular activity, we would love to identify the various assets that we have within the boundaries of this country, both natural assets and manufactured assets in the public sector as well. And then we would love to actually engender activities that enable us to better curate these assets, to increase their potential to produce the revenue and or the various agricultural outputs and or the mineral outputs that are required to maximize the potential of these assets. And I'll give you a practical example on the next slide. This particular goal also challenges us as Namibians to begin to prepare to be prosperous again. Of course, most of us at the moment are extremely challenged, both fiscally, mentally, and perhaps even spiritually. But yet, the very name of this plan ages us on to think of prosperous times to come. And so it is in that view that this particular goal actually looks to establish the Sovereign Wealth Fund to help us prepare for the days that we do discover some of the wealth that, for example, the Investment Promotion Agency has been tasked to go and find in the world. The second goal then says, we have assets, we now want to increase the productivity of those assets. And to do this, His Excellency acknowledges that we will all need to work together. And so one of the primary goals of the second goal is to actually invite the private sector to work hand in hand with government to build, assess, and transform some of these assets through the public-private partnership mechanism that this government has been working to engineer really since 2017. The particular frameworks are established, but yet we have not actually been able to successfully execute on one PPP. And in this particular year, the Ministry of Finance in particular has put together various structures that will make that particular reality, or at least that particular ambition, a reality. We will be launching a portfolio of 10 PPPs in the next month, and within the budget, there has been a commitment of $96 million over the medium-term expenditure framework to launch a project preparation facility that will help us identify and, of course, like we said, prepare the assets in order to invite meaningful local and foreign direct investment. Goal 3 then says, in addition to the assets that we have, we would like to embark on an exercise that will look to identify new opportunities. In order to do that, we will embark on a ruthless mission of investment attraction, both locally and globally. And in order to do that, His Excellency actually considered the wise counsel of the high-level panel on the Namibian economy, which was convened last year. And we are very pleased to have both the chair and the vice chair here present with us today. And one of the recommendations was to form a focused investment promotion agency. And on the back of that particular recommendation, the Namibian Investment Promotion and Development Board was was conceived and has been housed underneath the presidency specifically to try and go and find investment that will help us unlock some new opportunities in the country. We have also realized that Namibia actually has world-class renewable resources in our country, both solar and wind. In fact, we're one of the top 4 countries with some of the best solar irradiation, and Lüderitz, as we all know, possesses a very, very attractive wind resource. And on the back of that particular opportunity set, we do think there is an opportunity to unlock a whole new industry, and this particular plan provides a potential framework of how we can go about that to unlock this new complementary engines of growth. A very key goal, or at least a very key activity under this goal, is the fact that we are admitting that at times you can build very large infrastructure assets at the top, but those opportunities and benefits don't trickle down to the average man and woman on the street. And so the goal 3 also looks to champion the development of a national SME fund, which essentially is a continuation of the dreams that was in HPP1, where we put together 3 initiatives to focus on SME development. And so in a nutshell, if I looked really to encapsulate the vision that has been captured under this particular pillar, one can see that before we create prosperity and wealth, it is very useful that we prepare for that wealth. And so the Sovereign Wealth Fund will help with that particular goal. As we look to create new wealth, we are admitting, and in fact His Excellency is an avid farmer, and he says we have some fantastic agricultural assets, for example. Our Honorable Minister of Agriculture has said that he will actually commit to focus on the development of green schemes, potentially through either the PPP mechanism or any other mechanism that can infuse a new amount of know-how and or capital. And so we have to focus on some of our old assets. But as you heard from His Excellency's speech, he's also edging us on to be adventurous and explore new opportunities. And it is in that vein that the plan specifically articulates the President's vision to go ahead and develop the green hydrogen and green ammonia opportunity that exists in Namibia. Over the past few weeks, almost 2 months now, we've been getting repeated interest from investors both locally and globally who are extremely keen to get involved in unlocking a new fuel for the future. This green hydrogen and or ammonia is being touted as the fuel that will help these developed economies to meet their climate neutrality targets. And so this is really where, for me, I could see a meeting of the minds between His Excellency and, of course, the Minister of Finance. When he was talking about Wakanda, Wakanda is a very prosperous city on the continent, but really the core of its economic activity was around an alloy called vibranium. And so if Wakanda has vibranium, perhaps Namibia has green hydrogen and green ammonia. And we actually have the sun on our flag, and that is essentially what green hydrogen and green ammonia is. We're capturing the sun on our flag, we're bottling it, and we're shipping it both to our neighbors, taking advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, and of course to our overseas neighbors and developmental partners, many of whom have been invited here as well. And as mentioned in the previous slide, as we look to develop these new opportunities, we want to be focused on our people to ensure that we're creating jobs and that the growth is indeed an inclusive growth. And in the plan, we have worked very hard with the Ministry of Labor and the Ministry and the International Labor Organization to champion 2 key concepts that will be espoused throughout the plan. One of an employment impact assessment approach. So every time we build a project, we look at how many jobs it can create. And the other one espouses the desire to implement employment-centered budgeting. So as a government, when we're looking to deploy resources, we do want to focus on the number of jobs in order to prioritize the various endeavors that we will be looking to launch. In terms of the business focus, we are absolutely aware that indeed this is the most trying times for businesses in Namibia. And you heard His Excellency speak about our efforts to reduce economic scarring. And so we will be working with our legislative experts and our Ministry of Justice to look at whether we can amend and augment our insolvency legislation to infuse the principles of business rescue, akin to what the Chapter 11 bankruptcy law affords a lot of companies in the United States, that essentially engenders the spirit and will to be more entrepreneurial. Because if you do fall down, it does not necessarily mean that you should totally be cut off from the knees and you should not continue to be entrepreneurial. As we mentioned, a lot of these aspirations sound big and they may benefit big business, but we know that it is the SME sector that is one of the largest employers really within the country. And so again, through the Namibian Investment Promotion Development Board, we will be championing SME inclusion into a lot of these various infrastructural projects and aspirations to ensure that they're there to supply some of the needed services, food, etc., to ensure that that economic benefit trickles down to the lowest possible level. His Excellency absolutely believes in consultation. And so as we drafted this particular plan, he asked us to be as to consult as widely as we could. And as we did that, one of the questions that we got the most was, how is government going to execute this particular ambition plan? Because typically, it is an area where we could do better. And so we went and scoured the globe for best practices on this particular issue. And His Excellency has noted that as a government, we have committed to forming a delivery unit, which will work very closely with the National Planning Commission, and it will look to ensure that, as the Prime Minister instructed us, to ensure that we're empowering the various OMAs to execute on the various projects and not just to report on their progress. So we look forward to the implementation of that particular delivery unit, which we know will infuse expertise from PPP experts, engineers, and finance professionals whom will work hand in hand with government professionals in order to deliver this particular plan. In a nutshell, this is how we are going to aspire to engender economic activity in the most trying times of this country's independence history. Ladies and gentlemen, this is of course an extremely audacious undertaking, and this is exactly why the President has invited a very inclusive audience today. This amazing cabinet will not be able to do all of this on its own. We will have to partner with the private sector, with our developmental partners, and with any investor, both locally and abroad, who shares a common vision of a prosperous Namibia, a great Namibia, and a Namibia, as the President mentions, that leaves no one behind. Thank you. I now take this opportunity to introduce Ms. Matthias, who will speak to the social progression pillar. Thank you.
Please permit me to stand on the protocol that has been established. Thank you and good morning, Comrade President. The picture that you have in front of you on social progression was a picture taken in 2015 of the President and the little children in the community of Tsumkwe. And Tsumkwe is the poorest constituency in Namibia, followed only by Opuo. And this photograph really captures the essence of the social progression pillar. While the economic advancement and its recovery components identify new frontiers and makes a thrust towards accelerated growth and development, the social progression pillar is anchored on the foundations for human development. towards social mobility, to alleviate and eradicate poverty, to reduce inequalities. It is about dignity and improved quality of life for Namibians, which is very central to the President's promise of prosperity for all. This pillar is founded on five goals and desired outcomes and 19 strategic activities. The first goal, in light of the impact of the drought and increasing vulnerability because of loss of livelihood, is to arrest hunger poverty and ensure that there are 0 deaths in Namibia from hunger. The second goal seeks to resolve the question of urban land, housing, and sanitation. Goal 3 looks to improve access to public health care. Goal 4 seeks to improve access and the quality of public education and sports. The final goal is a new and emerging social contemporary issue which has always been in our country, but there is a rising incidence and a need to intensify efforts to arrest gender-based violence and the violence perpetrated against children. I will now just do a top-line overview of some of the strategic activities that the government commits to undertaking during the term. Of the 19 activities, in order to arrest hunger poverty, there are 3 strategic activities. It will be to increase the production yields through rural extension services for communal farmers in crop-producing regions. It will be to determine a basic wage floor for minimum wage through the established Wage Commission. This process will have to be undertaken through wide public consultation. It will be to enact a special conferment bill that will enable the regularization and citizenship of currently undocumented and stateless persons in the country. We will also seek to, during the tenure, consolidate some of our social safety nets, specifically the food bank and the marginalized grants, into a conditional basic income grant. This will be done in a phased approach, and in the first installment, it would only be for the beneficiaries currently listed under the food bank and marginalized grant component. For Goal 2, to deliver on the question of urban land, housing, sanitation, there are 4 strategic activities. Through a collaborated and a coordinated effort between local authorities, the government institutions such as the GIPF, the Shack Dwellers Federation, and some development property developers, we are making a commitment to service and deliver 24,000 erven over the term. This is a commitment based on the resources that are available, and it will depend on the mobilized funding of these development partners. These erven have been located countrywide, but priority will be placed on the areas where there is greatest need. The President declared in the 2018 Land Conference that the situation in informal settlements is a humanitarian crisis, and to this end he has charged the Ministry of Urban and Rural Development to spearhead the formalization and the upgrading of informal settlements. For the term, we are undertaking to upgrade 5 informal settlements across the country. We are also able to make a commitment of 20,000 housing units to be delivered over the term, but this is not limited to the collaborative and the innovative platform that will be forged between the private and the public sector in order for us to reduce the cost of housing and also to reduce the cost of land through some policy reforms on the national housing policy. For Goal 3, to expand access to public health care, we have a number of targeted activities, which include expanding infrastructure across the country in different towns. We have at least 5 capital projects that are on the lineup over the term. We also intend to modernize the central medical store to secure the supply of pharmaceuticals and clinical supplies in the country. We intend to expand and to decentralize certain facilities for non-communicable diseases so that there's access for radiotherapy, dialysis units at state hospitals in 5 different towns beyond Windhoek. They are currently all centralized in Windhoek. The Minister of Finance also spoke to the introduction of a national health insurance, and through the term, we will begin the process of nationwide consultations to restructure the public health sector and develop the necessary policy framework towards equitable access to public health care for all. Under Goal 4, really addressing the fundamentals to human development education, there is a capital outlay to increase and to improve the education infrastructure, which is classrooms, ablution facilities, hostels, and I would like to make an appeal to the private sector here to join hands with government because of the significant backlog in education social infrastructure. We will conduct the necessary reviews on the policy for integrated early childhood developments to improve the quality of ECDs and to increase the subsidies for educarers so that we can have a better product at the foundation that can make it through the education system with lower attrition. We have a number of activities under higher education, which include the establishment of a teachers' professional regulatory body, which is intended to improve the quality of the training of educators and to prescribe minimum standards for the profession. Jointly, together with the private sector, during the term, we will implement a national internship and TVET apprenticeship program to facilitate at work, integrate learning, and cooperative education. We will conclude the NASFAF sustainability model this term to improve fund administration, coverage, and loan recovery. We will also introduce industry skills committees for institutions of higher learning so that we can improve the curriculum reform through participation of the private sector towards a more demand-driven education system that is responsive to the economic transformation agenda. Finally, on sports is to professionalize 6 priority codes in the country. Under Goal 4, or the final goal, which is arresting gender-based violence and violence against children, we have heard the cry of the public, driven by civil society organizations with young people at the forefront, who have made very considered recommendations to the government, of which some have been included in the National Priority Program. We undertake to improve the training and the orientation of police officers, social workers, youth officers, towards a more empathetic, inclusive, and correct care for first responders and survivors of GBV. We make a commitment to creating specialized courts for the hearing of GBV cases at magistrates' courts across the country. We further commit to promulgating the National Register of Sex Offenders to ensure that a record of names is kept for those found guilty of sexual offenses, and to promulgate the Child Justice Bill, among many other legislative instruments, to demonstrate government's zero tolerance towards GBV and violence against children in our country. Your Excellency, this is the end of a very summarized social progression pillar. I would just like to reiterate that the social progression pillar is central to President delivering tangible improvements and to making sure that nobody in the Namibian House feels left out. Thank you. I take this opportunity to invite Madam Penny Akwenye to present the infrastructure development pillar.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I stand at the protocol that was already established, and I'm here to present to you infrastructure pillar. Okay, this is the pillar that binds it all, because goods have to be delivered through roads, we need railways, we need electricity, and we need network for us to function as a society. This pillar has 4 goals and 10 actions. The first goal is about energy supply security. We all know that when HPP I was evaluated, it had a target of 400 megawatt, but we achieved 624 megawatt. So, I don't know what happened to the presentation, but let me just go on. Now, those megawatts that we have achieved, 624, so they form the base of HPP2. And we are aware that at the peak time, we need 673 megawatt, and is projected to rise at 931 megawatt in 20. I'm pressing, but it's not. I don't know what happened. Oh, it's coming. Okay, but by 2030, if all the activities that are planned are in place, we will be needing 1,348 megawatt. We know that the energy does not just receive electricity from renewable energies, but also from petroleum, hydropower, and we also import electricity from SADC power pool. When we were preparing HPP1, there was a fear of load shedding. And that's why this very pillar is focused on electricity. The next activity or goal is source, secure and cost-effective water supply. And that time also, we were scared that the tap would run dry, but His Excellency created or established Cabinet Committee on Water Supply Security, and it really helped to implement certain projects, and tap did never run dry. That cabinet is still going on, together with the Ministry of Agriculture, Water, and Land Reform, as well as NAM-Water. For HPP2, there are certain projects that are going to be implemented, and I'm only going to mention maybe 4 that are going to have impact on the population. One is to develop Ohangwena aquifer, that is to construct a reservoir, to do the piping, and to transfer the water to the main or bulk supply. So then we upgrade Oshakati purification plant. When it was constructed, it was so small and the population grew. Now it needs to be upgraded. We also replaced the reservoir in Irundu and established the purification plant, and developed Abenab aquifer that link Eastern National Water Carrier that comes to, I think, from Back Dam up to Windhoek. Goal number 3 is strengthen Namibia's position as a transport hub. Here we have to complete the ongoing bitumen roads by end of Harambee II. I only mentioned 4 that are familiar also to all of us. We have Windhoek-Okahanja Road, we have Swakop Mountains Bay, Kamanyap, and we have Windhoek-Hosea-Kutako International Airport. It is in phases, but it has started. You have seen the phase from Country Club to Semnoyoma Drive, and from there, that section also from there to Dodabese started. It's only that it is not following the road that we normal see. And we are completing also Gobabis Aranos road, which was just half done. On top of that one, we are completing the refurbishment and the upgrading of Chumeb-Kransberg railway to SADC standard, that's 18 tons axle per axle. And we also want to increase the speed, 80 kilometers per hour. I think currently it's even maybe below 60 kilometers per hour. That's the goal of third goal of pillar number 4. So the last pillar is expand coverage for information and communication technology. Here we want to implement open access network infrastructure sharing in bid to champion universal broadband access by 2025. We want to establish a special purpose vehicle to finance ICT infrastructure, and it's even better if infrastructure will be shared. The current cooperation between Afratus and Telecom is a very good example. If all of them can come together, then they will form, they will make more impact. So the other activities to facilitate a safe and robust ICT ecosystem. Here we want to, the cyber crime was already done, said by Inge, and also data protection bill needs to be finalized. So to get information or to inform the communities about what the government is doing, we want to mobilize resources to procure direct home television services that will enable us to reach the rural areas and the community. So as I said earlier, this chapter is a network kind of chapter. And if we want to have a functional logistic hub, we require good and safe roads. We need water for economic activities. We need to have functional ports. We want the fast and reliable railways, electricity network, so that we'll be able to communicate as well as to deliver goods and services. Thank you very much, Congress President. So the chapter on international relations will be represented by Dr. Hengari.
Your Excellencies, I stand on the protocol as established. Before I start my presentation, which is actually the last pillar, we've been having a discussion that we closed, I think, on Monday amongst ourselves as to which is the pillar that the President is most passionate about. And Daisy would say, no, it's social progression, because the President is passionate about poverty eradication. Madam Inge would say, no, but governance is the bedrock of service delivery. James would say, But you can't do these things if you don't grow the economy. So the president is passionate about economic advancement. Infrastructure development, the president is also passionate about infrastructure. Now, with regard to international relations and cooperation, I would say, well, but the president is also passionate about diplomacy, about peace. So we settled the debate by agreeing that all these pillars are core to the president. With regard to this specific pillar, the president spoke at length about our domestic policy as anchored in solidarity, the question of justice, and prosperity. The objective of international relations and cooperation is also to advance our domestic prosperity on the basis of the principles of solidarity and justice. A number of these principles would remain in light of the fact that they remain core to our national interest. But Harambee Prosperity Plan, as a targeted impact plan, focuses on one goal. That is to enhance economic diplomacy for economic recovery. And we have six activities in order to advance the goal of economic recovery. The first one is premised on the fact that economic diplomacy requires aggressive and effective engagement with regional and global partners in order to harness the potential of trade and investment opportunities. This will be done through the creation of a multi-stakeholder coordinating platform and also the creation of an interministerial platform to consider issues of national priority and to better coordinate our economic diplomacy in order to provide timely information and better services to investors and all our stakeholders. The second action looks at how we enhance the conditions for prosperity, specifically looking at the difficult situation in which we found ourselves, that of an upper middle income country. Last year, I think it was June, the president took a call from the Prime Minister of Canada, where this issue was discussed, and there was concurrence on the part of the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, that this is a difficult question, and there has been a number of countries that have now joined the wagon with regard to reclassification of countries that are finding themselves in this situation. In order to deal with this issue, the government will put in place a strategy to lobby at multilateral fora for the reconsideration of this classification. The third action relates to the question of how we can optimize regional integration, understanding fully that there is a link between peace and security in the region and sustainable development on the other. Namibia will continue to participate meaningfully in the SADC Regional Indicative Strategic Development Plan. The country will also, in line with its positioning as a logistics hub, accentuate relevant sectors in the SADC Regional Infrastructure Development Plan. The objective of these engagements are to empower young people with skills that are marketable to relevant sectoral opportunities in the economy. The fourth action looks at how we can derive benefits from African economic integration. As a Pan-African country, Namibia will continue to play its role to ensure that the AU delivers on Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, and specifically looking at certain flagship programs of the AU, of which the ACFTA is one of those priorities. In order to capitalize on that, the country will look at establishing diplomatic and commercial presence in Africa's sub-regional economic hubs by 2023. The fifth action looks at bilateral cooperation. Bilateral partners offer the best avenues for deepening trade and commercial ties, and this can contribute meaningfully to our economic recovery. An exercise will be undertaken to review bilateral agreements to ensure that they are effectively aligned to our developmental needs, and we will also formulate country-specific policies in order to optimize on that cooperation. The last action looks at targeted multilateral diplomacy. Namibia is committed to strengthening the multilateral system by supporting international accords and problem solving. And COVID-19 in particular has reaffirmed the critical role of international cooperation in addressing transnational threats to security and development. The government undertakes through HPP2 to realign our focus to proactively leverage technical cooperation in key areas that have been identified throughout the plan, such as the blue economy, agriculture, technology, the environment, education, logistics, and ICT. In a nutshell, that is the last pillar on international relations and cooperation. I thank you.
Very clearly the goals and the activities that has been unpacked and how we are going to reach what we have set ourselves as a nation. Now, Comrade President, when you have worked so long and so hard and so intensively and so comprehensively on a plan or a project or a program which you see the culmination thereof, you become so excited. And especially a project or a plan or a program like HPP2 that holds the promise of a better future for the nation of Namibia, you become so excited. And I also became so excited, and I have announced the launch of HPP2 before it was actually launched. Now, Your Excellency, I'm calling upon the President of the Republic of Namibia to finally launch the Harambee Prosperity Plan II.
You see, she said, I believe in teamwork. Now, what you were hearing was my speech. I could have continued to draft it. I could have stood here and tried to read it. So what we do is a teamwork. And therefore, I divided it up. And now I'm telling you I'm finished with presenting this report. And therefore, it is now my great honor and privilege to launch this Harambee Prosperity Plan II 2021 to 2025 officially. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade President. This is the hard copy of the Harambee Prosperity Plan II, as launched by His Excellency, Dr. Hage Geingob, President of the Republic of Namibia. A hand of applause again. Thank you very much. Now we are going to subject this plan to scrutiny through a question and answer session, Comrade President. Because if you do not ask what the plan is about, all about, how we are going to reach the targets that we have put ourselves, we are not going to find out. So the inquisitive minds are going to ask questions now. As we have listened and learned, each pillar is sector specific, and we have sector ministers in here. Ministers will respond on policy issues that will come out of the questions, and the advisors, the presidential advisors, will respond on technical aspects of the plan. Thank you very much. How do we start? Dr. Hengari? There is a... Oh, okay, there is a mic. There is a mic. This is Oketo.
Good morning. Thank you very much. My name is Ogito Graig. I write for Republican newspaper. I have got a few questions. My first question regards the basic income grant, which was originally proposed by the NAM Tax Consortium of tax experts brought together by government to broaden and deepen our tax base. And they said we should have a universal grant because up to 60% of any targeted grant of the money gets spent on administration. Now, at the time, their proposal was rejected because politicians felt Namibians will misuse the money for alcohol or are too lazy to work if you give them money. And under no circumstances could all Namibians get something equally because of our skewed past. Now, 30 years after independence, I want to understand currently, why do we reject any universal intervention for all Namibians and always insist on targeted interventions? Secondly, and related to that, the new version of income grant that you have proposed will also replace the assistance that marginalized communities now enjoy under the ministry. If marginalized communities, many of them in places like Chumkwe and Upoa, which are the poorest we've heard from the advisor in the country, currently are still faced with realities and being told that there is no money for the SAN. Currently, while they have a ministry specifically aimed towards them, how can we ensure that when they are made to qualify for this targeted income grant, they won't even more be left out or marginalized? Then I'd like to find out about the new economic empowerment NEF, which the advisor said must now be turned into law because there's been a lot of consultation. While most of that consultation has brought about opinions about why this specific intervention will be very bad for our economy. So I just want to understand, despite all the feedback against this, even trapped by their job, so how will we grow a nation where everybody or most people are prosperous when we are building it on this cheap labor system? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Can we have a second person before we respond to all the questions? Please jot down all the questions. I'm not going to repeat the questions.
With NIEF, is consideration being given to the equity aspect when it finally becomes law? And then on the issue of PPPs, what is being done to ensure that that it will be entered into on a win-win basis if one considers now the case of NWR and Sankaros? And then what in terms of the deal making, we've seen a delayed sale of a
Technology. Basic income grant. I was one of those who were there, maybe second meeting I attended. And I was part of it. I was even sponsoring 2 students or people, workers. So it's not a new thing to me. Even when I was participating in that, I was questioning the rationale for everybody to get the same. Up to now, you must still come and convince me. If a man is a billionaire, and you are saying they must all get the same as a person in the street in Karatura, what kind of sense is that? That's what we were saying, based on needs, basically. Now they were saying it will be equalized by tax basis, how tax is going to be administered. Well, we are saying, let's just go and address those who are in a need. What is wrong with that? Are you saying everybody, those who are rich, all of us who are sitting here, who are getting money, who are rich, must get the same as a person who is unemployed in Karatura? Does it make sense? No, to me it doesn't make sense. That's why we are saying no, it will be based on modified basic income grant. We had a food bank. That food bank did wonders. Go and ask what they are saying. And it's cash transfers are the ones which are now addressing poverty everywhere. So food bank or food we're giving or whatever must be now properly structured, that we are going to give this basic income grant to those who deserve it, not a billionaire. I must still be convinced how it makes sense that a person who is unemployed, suffering in Karatura or anywhere, and a person who is employed, some are billionaires, must get the same. Please explain that to me. What logic is that? That's about the food bank. I've been dealing about the basic income grant. So everybody is now claiming basic income grant. I was one of the founding members of that when I was out of the government, by the way. So I was there, and I know what I'm talking about. We also met the Brazilians and talked to them. They are also having doubts about this universal grant. They were also having a doubt. Who is going to take NIEF? I will take NIEF also. I just want to ask our public there whether this country is having greatest inequality in the world, one of the greatest inequalities in the world. Those who are questioning NIEF, I want them to answer the question, do we have a crisis here of inequality? Even a capitalist from World Bank, Stiglitz, says society which is unequal can never survive. Why are people fighting against NIEF? Why don't you give us an alternative? They say education. We were here 100 years of apartheid education. Did it help? education itself cannot solve the problem. You must empower people. Take action. Now, why are people opposed to NEF? I would like to know. They say 25% is not good. We remove that. Now they are saying it's creating uncertainty. To whom? Did the business people say that? Investors, potential ones. Some come from countries which are fighting against poverty and inequality. So they wouldn't like to come to a country which is so really bad. Their investment won't be guaranteed by a country which is so divided, by rich and the poor. Their investment will go up in flame because the people are going to run over that. So deal with it now, please. Other things we want to take over? Anybody? Experts?
Yes? Anybody? Okay.
Thank you, Comrade President, and thank you, members of the media, for the questions. So I'll take a few of the questions. The first one was on MTC listing. I think the question was, what are we going to do with the capital that we will raise from the listing? Both the Ministry of Finance and obviously, I'm sure, the Cabinet Committee on Treasury and of course, Economic Development are going to debate that particular issue quite a bit. Some of the key uses that we are considering, obviously, is to retire very expensive debt, to potentially restructure our debt maturity profile as well. You don't want to put the government under a lot of pressure to be paying debt that is retiring very, very quickly, very often. But of course, I think that is also tied to the other question, which was saying, how is it that we're going to invest in the economy to create the requisite jobs? And so the debate within, of course, the government will be, are there properly curated and prepared opportunities that can actually meaningfully absorb some of that capital? And of course, we will also have deep deliberations on whether some of that money can't be used either to fund the Sovereign Wealth Fund or even potentially fund or capitalize the Project Preparation Fund. But all of those particular discussions will obviously be subjected to rigorous analysis to make sure that we are either minimizing our cost of capital as a government, or certainly we are maximizing the rate of potential return, again, as a government that is focused on creating economic growth. I think one of the other things that was asked, this was from the gentleman, the second one, who said, how are we going to make deals faster and deal making? This is exactly why we formed the Namibian Investment Promotion Development Board, the focused investment promotion agency. What the agency will do is essentially be the key interface between interested investors and, of course, government as an entity. And so investors will not necessarily have to wait for various OMAs, for example, to coordinate a response or an approach from an investor. They can go to a one-point of service, and then that particular entity will then deal with the various OMAs to try and expedite various potential investments that we will get approached by. Of course, one of the other questions was, we are looking to do PPPs. What does that necessarily say about our cash flow? The President and his whole cabinet believes in maximum transparency, which is exactly why we got an extremely detailed budget yesterday. So when you sort of say to us, what is our cash flow position? It was very detailed, or it was presented in a very detailed manner yesterday by the Honorable Minister of Finance. And that also says the following. So while we are fiscally constrained, we retain the ambitions to provide the very jobs that one of the other questions was looking for. And so this is why we are implementing the PPP framework or mechanism, essentially to say nation building should not be undertaken by the government alone. And in fact, in the economic advancement pillar, we talk about an approach of blended financing when we're looking to raise the requisite capital to develop the various assets. So I'm sure over time we shall dialogue and engage with one another in more detail, and of course we can unpack these themes in a lot more detail with you. I think the one last question, which was at least that I will take, that was relevant for me was what is green hydrogen and ammonia? We recognize that this is very sort of a new concept. It's a novel pursuit for economic growth for Namibia. At this point in time, I'll take the opportunity to shamelessly plug my LinkedIn profile, where we have actually posted a World Bank study that unpacked the green hydrogen and green ammonia opportunities for Namibia. It's actually been up now for almost 3 weeks. I'll make sure that the gentleman that asked the question gets an answer. But in simple terms, essentially what green hydrogen is essentially water obviously has hydrogen and oxygen. And to produce green hydrogen, you use a process called electrolysis, which essentially is electricity infused into the water, and it separates the hydrogen and the oxygen atoms. This is why you need quite a bit of renewable energy, and so the solar and the wind assets that we have provide a very, very good mix of renewable energy that helps with the electrolysis process. Once you've separated your hydrogen from your ammonia, you can then actually ship the hydrogen once it's liquefied, and the hydrogen can get used for various industries, whether it is fuel for vehicles such as ships, trucks, etc., for heating and many other industrial uses. Now, hydrogen at the moment is fairly experimental in terms of its ability to be transported and to be produced cheaply. But what you can do today is you can use what they call an air separation unit to extract nitrogen from the air, combine that with the hydrogen, and you'll have ammonia. And because it was made from renewable assets, it's called green ammonia. And ammonia today is readily traded around the world, and it's used for manufacturing fertilizer, for example, as well as other items. So we were actually going to be embarking on a journey, first to build the large-scale renewable assets, which is something we're very used to. And then, of course, we have been approached by these various shipping companies and energy developers to then build the various green ammonia-related assets. All of those details are actually encapsulated in the Harambee Prosperity Plan II. And the vision that the president has for Namibia with regards to this has actually been termed the Southern Corridor Development Initiative. And it really looks to turn the region, the Karas region, potentially into an economic powerhouse, because we're going to be reviewing the possibility of upgrading the Luderitz port, obviously with our Minister of Works and Transport. And then we're going to be looking to build the renewable assets with the assistance of our Minister of Mines and Energy. After that, if we can actually produce green ammonia, we will be looking to see whether that can be converted into fertilizer and potentially used in the Neckartal Green Scheme. And essentially, you can see the vision there is we will be looking to build infrastructure, not in isolation, but that complement each other in order to engender the very jobs that we're looking for. Of course, this is a multi-decade journey, and we know that the saying goes, a journey of 1,000 miles needs to start with one step. And the president just started the first step today by launching this particular plan. And he has charged his cabinet to form a coordinating group of ministries, some of which I have mentioned, and they will form a green hydrogen committee that will drive this particular journey from government's perspective. From the private sector, I know that the private sector is also organizing themselves, and in fact, they are going to be forming what is going to be called a Namibian Green Hydrogen Association. And we've got support from development partners from overseas and local companies as well, who will be championing the coordination from a private sector perspective. Hopefully that provides some perspective as to what green hydrogen and ammonia may entail for Namibia. But of course, this particular conversation has just started, and we look forward to having it with you in the years to come. Thank you.
Anybody else who wants to add something? There was a question on MTC listing. It was taken care of. Okay, thank you. Then we have covered, I think, gender, very good. Minister of Gender, Equality and Child Welfare.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the question which was brought here. I think you have heard from the horse mouth, the founder of Basic Income Grant. So, to what you have said here sounds to be like as if government is not doing something. Right now, as I'm telling you, the policy, social protection policy, is seized with cabinet. So very soon, maybe you'll hear our pronouncement on it. The other one which has touched my heart is on marginalized people. That marginalized people are told there's no money. My dear, don't divide people. That's not fair. Marginalized people have got money in the Ministry of Gender. So I don't know where you found that information that there's no money for marginalized people. I don't know. Because right now, as I'm talking, there's a desk which we have created in the Ministry of Gender where they are looking after, especially on the salaries and the fees of the San people. There's a desk which was created now in the Ministry of Gender. So by saying that marginalized people have been told that then there's no money, it's not true. It's not true. Thank you is what I wanted to add.
Thank you very much. That's the long and short of it. Next.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency. My name is Akil Sikela from the Namibian newspaper.
From?
The Namibian newspaper.
Oh, okay.
I have several questions on the social progression pillar. The president in 2019 made a statement saying that he wanted the sharks or the sharks in the informal settlements to be gone in 5 years. But when I looked at the goals that are set out under this pillar in Pillar 3 on social progression, specifically on housing and housing provision, the targets there says that the government under this plan targets to service about 24,000 plots countrywide, and under the National Housing Policy or Initiative, provide about 20,000 housing units. I just wanted to ask the president, has perhaps maybe the president given up on his plan or his dream to see the sharks gone in 5 years? Because statistically, we have about 900,000 people that lives in the informal settlement, and for Windhoek, we have about 140,000. So I am not sure how this about 44,000 or 42,000 housing and land delivery is going to make an impact on the sharks. Maybe the president can give us a response on that. Another question is on I did not really see, again under that pillar of social progression, the president is making a commitment to say that he will secure food security or household food security for the next 5 years. But I did not see really anything talking about agriculture and talking about utilizing the water that we just have currently now in abundance at the Nekata Dam, of which we have paid about 5 billion to construct that dam. Does the government has any plan currently to utilize that water resources? The third question, on a lighter note, Your Excellency, we have seen for the past few months or the past few weeks that the president is lively tweeting about Liverpool's progress in the in the EPL, in the Champions League. Your Excellency, there are other, of course, numerous pressing issues in Namibia, including our football currently is not operational. Do you perhaps have a plan to see our football kicking off, maybe so that we can maybe support local teams apart from Liverpool? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Journalists, and President on Eagle FM. Thank you for the opportunity that you've given us. I do have very few questions, really.
Thank you.
In the document, you say an urgent business rescue task force made up of private and public sector players will be urgently set up, and I would like to put in bold the word urgent. But in the spirit of urgency, we have seen the national airline being put under the hammer, scattering 600 plus workers into the cold, consequently unsettling the livelihoods of thousands of the dependents of those 600 workers. How seriously and frankly urgent are you to the need of business rescue when the airline got liquidated? Will this rescue be applied to
we capture every question and you have proper answers.
Okay.
Yes, please.
What is the most significant difference between the Harambee Prosperity Plan I and Harambee Prosperity Plan II?
And raise your voice, please.
Are the targets realistic considering only 76% of the former plan was completed and the same economic headwinds that affected the first plan are still around if they have not worsened due to the global pandemic? The third question is, does the budget launched yesterday complement the Harambee Plan II, and how? How does it provide the needed money for the infrastructure projects you have in the plan? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next one, please. Looks like we are done. Thank you very much. This was very fast. The first question dealt with the issue of informal settlements. where they wanted to know whether the president has given up on his dream. The second one was on the issue of household food security, no mention of agriculture and utilization of water resources. The other question was on the resuscitation of the football in the country, the liquidation, the business rescue task force in the face of liquidation of the national airline and job losses. Another one was the revitalization again of green schemes, where small farmers maybe and workers are not paid, the social progression, what are the mechanisms in place to support young people to take part in national dialogues, as well as the most significant difference between the two plans, Harambee Prosperity Plan and the two, 1 and 2. I couldn't get this one. Only 76% was achieved under the first plan. I couldn't get the answer. The question, maybe someone else got the question. Does the budget that was presented yesterday complement the Harambee Prosperity Plan II? Those were the questions. Thank you very much.
Things are not clear here now. Even I don't know what's wrong with the State House this time. We never had problems like this, or lights are not working, and so on. Or we can be told what is happening. First, I'll just take what I have to take, and the rest, since we are many here, will answer the others. Sex, promise I made about eradication of informal sector, but I said in ISO, it's a thing we must address as a country. Whether it is there or not properly stipulated, we have already even some money that we are going to start with one of the areas going towards Okahanja to clear that shack and make it as an example. Again, if I said that it should come to you too as a citizen, and all of us to hold hands to see how do we address this question of squatters. It's a big problem. So whether there is nothing there properly as you want to see it or not, it's a commitment that we are saying, as I said, society which is unequal cannot survive for too long. Country where some people are living in the shacks and others in palaces, how long can we maintain that inequality? So let's commit ourselves to addressing squatting. Of course, also addressing movement of people. We are now free. People can move from anywhere to come to green pastures, green the lights. We must therefore also bring development to the regions, housing development to the regions, employment to the regions. So people cannot just come to Windhoek because they think if they came here squatting, they'll get a job. It's not true. No houses, no job. So we have to address that issue. People just come here without asking for any authority, where can I set up my house? They just build and stay there. After that, they say there is no service. Now, obviously, it was not planned for. The city didn't plan for that, not budgeted for that. But you just come and squat and say, there is no water, there is no electricity, and newspapers go and say, people don't have water or electricity. It was not planned for. You just came and put up your sector. But being an independent country, unlike apartheid, we cannot just go and grab them and have no movement, no free movement of people. Free movement is telling people to move and settle anywhere in Namibia. But I remember one person in Karutura, I was that disguise. We were sitting in the car just listening. After the holding, grabbing of the land by the youth that time, this person was from the north. He was speaking with Shuambo. And he said, people, where we are coming from, when you are going to a region or area of a headman, don't you go and report first to him or her to say, I want to be allocated a place to stay? Here you just come and grab anywhere. What is not prepared for? That's a problem. But since people are free, we cannot just chase them away. And that's a problem we have. Freedom, democracy, plus realities. That's about my plan. Let me talk about Liverpool. The parochialism that we enjoy in this country is unbelievable. When I put that tweet, I reached nearly about 3 million, those who viewed it. 3 million internationally. It was a thing, but only insults were getting out from Namibia. Fish rot, that's what I said. But other people saw a sense of humor. They saw a sense of a supporter who is frustrated as they were. They were just telling me, Mr. President, thank you, we will improve. 3 million. Now, saying, why don't I help the sports apparent teams here at home? You must be a newcomer here. Because I am a sports lover, I'm known. But when the national team or national administration is in trouble, FIFA will never allow government to interfere. Go and look at it. They are so strict that government should never interfere in sports or football, not sports, football. They will kick you out. So, if you are doubting my support for local soccer, you must be a newcomer. Maybe we came from somewhere recently. So my record is very clear. Anybody wants to take other, it's not quite clear, you know. Questions are not clear. Yes? Yes, please, take it. Let's move on. Time is running.
Thank you, Comrade President, and thank you for the questions that were posed. I'll respond to a few as far as social progression, and it's complementary to what the President has responded. I just want to clarify that housing is a shifting goal, and in 2018 at the Land Conference, the President made a commitment to formalize and to upgrade informal settlements.
I don't hear you.
Oh, is it too soft? So, the national backlog of housing units stands currently at 300,000 units. And this is a shifting goalpost as we have an increasingly young and urban population. The commitments contained in the HPP II, in my words, are responsible commitments by the government of the day, using the resources at our disposal in a context of resource constraints, scarcity, competing priorities on social progression indicators. But these commitments cannot be viewed in isolation. They are interdependent and they talk to other pillars as well. Under the economic recovery pillar, or the advancement pillar, we've made a commitment to engender housing as a catalyst for economic growth. We are looking at establishing an innovative platform between the public and the private sector and other development partners. One, to establish an urban development fund to finance the delivery of service land and housing units, and two, to mobilize private sector capital for the construction of these housing units. The 20,000 units that are committed in the plan are the minimum amount of what we can deliver with the resources available, but we prefer to under-promise and over-deliver. Comrade President, there was also a question on securing household food security and how exactly we intend to do that. Household food security is a matter of putting money in the pockets of households. Because of the drought, because of the restrictions, necessary restrictions in response to the COVID pandemic, we acknowledge the vulnerability, the loss of income, and the increase in hunger poverty for households. Under the plan, there are specific intentions to operationalize the NAMSIP under the Ministry of Agriculture, which has a budget of 1 billion Namibian dollars. This will support communal farmers, subsistence farmers in crop-producing regions, and the work has already started to operationalize the NAMSIP. Under the Economic Advancement Pillar, there will be a portfolio of HPP projects. Some of those projects will be the green schemes. The Minister of Agriculture has committed to put 10 green schemes into HPP with the objective to unlock productivity, and the yields would then secure national and household food security. There is also the intention to package the Neketal Green Scheme under the HPP project. Comrade President, there was a question about the difference between the two plans, the HPP1 and the HPP2. It is important to know what didn't work and also to know what worked, so that you can do more of what works and change where there is required for what didn't work. What worked for HPP1 is the laser-sharp focus for development planning. Impact planning worked, and it enabled us to channel the limited resources into defined priority areas. Where there is room for improvement is on the implementation. The monitoring and the evaluation process will be strengthened through the Performance Delivery Unit, which will really do project management on each of the projects contained in the HPP2. The contribution from Berta is well received. The young people have played a very important role in shaping the document, and they're occupying spaces both outside of government, and through the effective governance pillar, we have made a commitment to increase citizen participation and engagement through structured dialogue mechanisms. These dialogue mechanisms will include structured platforms for consultation and for policy formulation. We've had a good case study with the Shut It All Down movement, who were accorded a platform by the Ministerial Task Force chaired by the Prime Minister on GBV, where they could present their recommendations for policy reform. And this has resulted in truly meaningful participation and is reflected in the document. The Prime Minister's commitment at that forum was that this space would be continued, and through myself as the youth advisor in the presidency, I affirm that we will maintain the committee on a quarterly basis, on a structured basis, to engage the activists on gender-based violence. Thank you, Comrade President.
Yes, thank you very much, Comrade President. I just would like to make one or two comments to supplement what was said, especially by His Excellency, in responding to some of the queries raised about whether the targets that we are setting for ourselves under Harambee are really sufficient to enable us to overcome the challenges that we are seeking to overcome, and specifically also on the issue of NIEB, how we are going to address the concerns that have been raised by the private sector in regard to NIEB. I just want to add to what was said by the President and the previous speakers to say that Harambee Prosperity Plan does not substitute for all the other government plans that we usually implement. The NDP would still be there. The specific policy initiatives, such as, for example, the National Nutrition and Food Security policies, would also be there to complement whatever is being done under Harambee Prosperity Plan. So when it comes to housing, for example, we have tax subsidies to incentivize people to acquire homes. We exempt the low income, for example, from transfer duty in order to enable them to better afford decent shelter. We have flexible land tenure system. We have the program of GIPF. We have the subsidy program of the government. So when we talk about things to do under Harambee Prosperity Plan, that doesn't mean that that is all that government is going to do in regard to that. We are simply just saying that whatever we do, we don't want to do any less than what we are setting for ourselves under Harambee Prosperity Plan. And now with regards to economic empowerment framework, you would have noted that we had series of consultations with the public, and through those consultations, some concerns were expressed. We made efforts to take on board those concerns and address them without compromising the main issue, which is that we should be proactive in bringing to an end the situation of inequities that we are facing now in Namibia. There is now a final round of consultation that was facilitated by the Chief Executive Officer of the Investment Promotion and Development Board. And with the input that we are going to receive from the public, we are now going to look at that and see how to finalize the NIEB. So we are not disregarding the concerns that have been expressed, but we can also not agree to discontinue something that is so important because there are concerns. Sometimes concerns are just because this is something that is new. You know, new things are always scary. So people tend to resist change until they actually realize that change is not so bad. So the liberation struggle was about white compatriots thinking that independence is going to mean they are going to lose everything and the blacks are going to take everything. But now they see they are able to achieve more in an environment of peace and security. So if they had embraced that change that time, there was not going to be any need for the war, and probably we would have gone much further in terms of development than where we are today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Comrade Prime Minister, and all the other responses. 1 minute.
I've been asked just to respond to this one. I think that one question was on the Business Rescue Task Force. So it was just to really elaborate to say that the Business Rescue Task Force has been put together to review legislation, so the Insolvency Act and the Companies Act, and which will not discriminate between the private sector and or the public sector. So all entities that fall under that particular legislative framework will benefit from that. And then obviously just to highlight that there's a difference between an entity that potentially is under economic distress and one that is totally insolvent. But of course we will unpack that for our people more. I think the one last thing I was asked to address was obviously a valid question with regards to the realistic nature of HPP2 given the very fiscal constraints that we face ourselves in. And this is exactly why in the plan, one of the things that government is undertaking to do is to launch what they're calling an integrated national financing framework. In fact, it's going to be launched by the NPC in the next few weeks. I think it is at Safari. And there the government is promising to be creative and all-encompassing in where it sources the developmental capital that it needs. A good practical example of that is PPPs, but another one, for example, is the launch of the Central Securities Depository, which essentially will allow for the electronic settlement of our bonds. These are instruments that we use to raise money to fund either the government or the private sector. And when we do that, it will enable us to raise capital from investors around the world and not just relying on the local capital market, which of course is massively reliant on Honorable Shimi's budget. So that will be an example of an item that will allow Namibia to diversify its sources of capital. And given the very low interest rates around the world, we may actually be able to attract capital that is cheaper than our own local capital to build the various projects that we have outlined here as a government and of course as a private sector. Thank you.
Thank you. I was just trying to say it's not the end. We didn't give you all the answers that you have to the questions you have asked. It was my speech through my colleagues. You pose questions to me, and therefore I again put it to my experts. However, ministers are here, and this dialogue must continue on this project. I can assure you, ministers will be available. My office, as usual, will be available. But let's state again This is an impact program. It doesn't substitute. Our vision is Vision 2030, long-term vision. We are working on it. But how do we try to see whether we are making movement? We have 5-yearly plans, 5-year national plans that are trying to see moving, if there are problems, to change here, as we are doing with this one, to eventually reach Vision 2030. This is the administration. We are elected. We are saying, how do we now fast track the 5-year plans and eventually to reach 2030? So it's not a difference, it's an administration's way of trying to deliver on the mandate it was given. Doesn't replace any other existing national plans. On that note,
thank you very much, Comrade President. It is now my honor to, but before I do that, Comrade President, I really want to apologize for the power outage of 2 minutes and 1 minute that happened. I am seeing already on media that it is going around that State House was plunged into darkness, but it also omitted to say that after 2 minutes, it was restored. It has never happened in the history of this building over the past 13 years that we have experienced power outage. We are definitely going to investigate what has caused it. It must be a very minor thing, and it should not be blown out of proportion. We have paid. We are not, we don't owe anybody anything. We have never owed anybody anything, and we are not experiencing load shedding in our country, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know. Now, I will call upon the Honorable Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of International Relations, to give the closing remarks and the vote of thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies. Comrade President, may I seek your permission in the interest of the time to stand on the protocol established. Thank you, Comrade President, for all the managers and heads of institutions present in this room and those who are listening wherever they are. And in your operations, you do not include all those who are working in that institution. I believe the example at the presidency is one to be emulated. We have seen that all the appointed officials from the presidency, they were given an assignment. I'm assigned an assignment to do a vote of thanks. I know we have been here longer, but I have to perform this assignment from the presidency. At the onset, I would like to sincerely thank Comrade His Excellency Dr. Hage Godfrey Geingob, President of the Republic of Namibia, not only for a clear guiding statement just delivered this morning, but also for the leadership and guidance he has provided over the years in the development and implementation of our national developmental programs. He has provided this leadership under very, very difficult conditions, which include world economic crisis, climatical disasters, and of late, the COVID pandemic. However, our economy remained resilient. and the achievements of the first Harambee Prosperity Plan is a clear testimony to this effect. Como President, as you have rightly said, the second Harambee Prosperity Plan, which was developed under your close watch, is there to fast-track the implementation of NDP 5 for the realization of Vision 2030, which is faster approaching. Therefore, we are very much grateful to you, Comrade President. The President's message was loud and clear, and I hope, as Namibians, we will do our part to ensure it is effective and efficient implementation. At this stage, Comrade President, let me also thank our Vice President, Comrade Nangolo Mbumba, for the support he has and continue to give to Comrade President during the crafting of this plan and, of course, in its implementation. Your introduction of our main speaker tells it all. We have an efficient and effective director who is here to direct our developmental agenda. Comrade Right Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Sarah Kuongerwa Madira, your welcome remarks, which have, in very few words, summarized the second Harambee Prosperity Plan, is highly appreciated. Comrade Prime Minister, you being in the helm of our administration, we have no doubt that with your expertise and knowledge, you will be able to lead and coordinate the implementation of the second Harambee Prosperity Plan. I want to thank all heads of government offices, ministries, public enterprise, the private sector, and individuals who have taken part in the launch of the second Harambee Prosperity Plan. You are the main implementers of this plan. You should therefore put into action every single aspect of the plan. It is through your respective offices and organizations that the effective service delivery will reach all Namibians wherever they are. I want to thank the advisors in the office of the President, the presidency. You have really shown how much expertise and knowledge and the right advice you are giving to the President, and that is highly appreciated. I want to thank members of diplomatic corps representing individual countries as well as international organizations. As a Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, you are my constituency, and all of you, you are our developmental partners. And with this Harambee Prosperity Plan, it should now be our reference point when we are discussing, when we are engaging, we refer to what extent our cooperation, be it bilateral, multilateral, is talking to the second Harambee Prosperity Plan. And thank you for being here, and thank you for listening. Our Director of Ceremony, the Minister in the Presidency, we are very grateful for the manner in which you have guided these proceedings. The media, and all those present, the questions you have asked has added value to our work because it helped to give us a chance to explain on issues that were not clear. Because we believe where you are not clear, it also means those who are here are not clear. Como President, as I conclude, once again, let me thank you, como President, and also at this point to remind the Namibian people that Namibia is part of the global village, and our developmental goals will not be realized in isolation. Hence, our developmental agenda has been informed, as you have rightly said, como President, by the SADC industrialization strategy, the AU Agenda 2063, and the Sustainable Development Goals, or the UN Agenda 2030. And for us to realize our developmental goal, we need both local and international investment, which is a prerequisite for economic recovery of all countries of the world. Como President, due to your strategic approach to our developmental agenda, at the beginning of this month, to be specific, from the 6th to the 10th of March 2021, como President, you assigned me to lead an investment promotion delegation to the United Arab Emirates. And also, your decision to establish the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board is a positive mood. I must say to the Namibian people, the world is open to Namibia and to the Namibian people. The world is ready to invest in our country, and the world is also open for Namibians who have the capacity to do so, to invest in their countries. The latter is very important because if you invest in another country, you have to repatriate your profit, bring it back home, and reinvest, grow our economy, create the necessary jobs, and contribute to the fight of poverty in our country. What we need, como President, is to put in place the right policies, the right laws, and of course, very, very important, the right attitude. That's the only way we'll be able to recover from the COVID-19. Finally, como President, I want to, in advance, to thank all Namibians who play their role in the implementation of the second Harambee Prosperity Plan. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Comrade Deputy Prime Minister. This has brought us to the end of our proceedings. Therefore, before I call us up for the singing of the anthems, I just want to make two announcements that there is a website opened specifically for the purpose of the Harambee Prosperity Plan II, and there are refreshments. Your Excellency, President of the Republic of Namibia, Your Excellency, Vice President of the Republic of Namibia, Your Excellency, Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, Speaker, I'm getting it wrong, Secretary General of Saba Party, Speaker and Deputy Speaker, Honorable Ministers, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, media fraternity, it is my honor and privilege to have been entrusted to direct the proceedings for today. I'm not going to make any statements, no vote of thanks. I'm signing off, and as I'm signing off, I am requesting Your Excellency to rise for the singing of the anthems, the AU, and the national anthem, and after that we will remain standing to see off the President and his entourage. Thank you very much.
Let us all unite and celebrate together the victories won for our liberation. Let us dedicate ourselves to rise together to defend our liberty and unity. Oh, sons and daughters of Africa, flesh of the sun and flesh of the sky, let us make Africa the tree of life. Namibia, land of the brave freedom fight, we have won. Glory to their bravery, whose blood waters our freedom. We give our love and loyalty, together in unity. Contrasting beautiful Namibia, Namibia, our country, beloved land of savannas, hold high the banner of liberty. Namibia, our country.